bring a lot of truth and learning into our lives, Christopher, and I appreciate that.
That brings me joy. Thank you. So what I'm hearing from both of you is that neither of you necessarily feel like you've arrived. You know there's still work to be done, but you both feel like you have tools and the ability to learn from the experiences versus being stuck in them. Is that about right?
Yeah, we got like the inner dialogue and the dialogue with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feel like I'm terrible at blaming her now, where I used to be so good at it. And now and it was like nice to just blame somebody for like my whatever I was experiencing. And now it's like, dang it, like I can't blame anyone. Like this is me. This is mine. So that's been huge as well.
That's a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spend a lifetime getting good at playing the victim and blaming and looking outside of ourselves, and then we start to take responsibility and learn new skill sets and mindsets and just approach it and see what we can do differently. And not always easy, but definitely always worth it.
Yeah.
I've just loved having you guys in the program and having you around and connecting and serving and interacting and watching you just light up and come alive and connect and move through a lot of the stuff from the past and come to this space of love and flow. It's been beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I barely figured out the other day, Janessa, that you are Adam's sister.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How do you think I knew who you were and connected with you?
Somehow I didn't even make that connection till literally like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Funny.
It's my brother. You know we're related now?
Yeah. Like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that dude. It's looking like he's coming to the initiation most likely, so that'll be fun.
Cool.
Gonna get his fitness and health handled this time.
That is going to be epic.
Wow.
He deserves that so much.
Yes. And seeing him and Ashley so happy and doing so well is wonderful.
For sure. Ashley's like my rock. I'll have to tell you my whole story. She's been a huge role in that.
She's amazing that way.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk week 8 content real quick. Where are you guys at with that?
I've listened almost to all of the videos, which are pretty, it's funny, we've just totally been following along in the tracks. It's funny, as soon as stuff wherever we're at or whatever's going on is always so relevant to what we're listening to. Aaron hasn't had the opportunity to listen to them yet. I don't think he knew they were posted.
I didn't think about it. So I haven't seen any of the week 8. I've listened to all of week 7. We haven't done all of the exercises, but yeah, so week 8 I'm at 0 on week 8.
Got it. Could you commit to having week 8 watched? And now I don't expect you to have all the exercises complete by next week, but could you watch all of week 8 by next week?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And then can you guys, so there's a call that you get that there should be, is there a link there, Janessa, in the member there?
Yeah.
So can you commit to, within the next week, watch all of the content and then make sure you commit over the next month or so to get all the exercises done? And then can you click on that link and get that call scheduled with me?
Yeah.
Awesome. At a time that both of you can be there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet. Any So I'm pulling up your Wufoo form right now. Any specific questions besides what's in here?
Come on.
No, I think just what I wrote.
All right. So number 1 here, it says the biggest win you can celebrate in your relationship right now, being seen. That's beautiful. Doesn't that feel awesome?
Yeah, it's weird. But it feels
It
great.
was
It's,
so weird, but it was so good.
yeah, yeah. It feels like somebody's got my back, like no matter what.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Good feeling.
I spent many years longing for that. It's such a Okay, so next thing, what's the number 1 challenge you're facing in your relationship right now? It's negative stories about each other, assuming negative intentions. What do you guys have to say about that?
I always still think that he's an enemy. Like, not always, but there's like certain times of the day, like when I'm first getting home from school, that I always like feel, not always, a lot of the time I feel pretty tense, like stressed for my day, like not getting time to like I just haven't been able to like unwind yet. And then coming home, I'm like, oh, like I'm going to go right into him. And our interactions are kind of weird because I know he's probably like feeling that and like talking and thinking about it. I'm like, yep, we totally just need to like connect for a second and then like go take care of me or whatever like needs to happen. Because then like it literally happened last night. I can't even remember what we were talking about. What were we talking about? I totally took it the wrong way. Like I thought he was like taking a jab at me, which is something that he's done, but he totally wasn't at all. And I was just like, I just need to go to bed. Like I can't. But then like, what's your side of it?
Well, just to add to that, and it's funny too, because I'll take jabs when I think that she just took a jab at me. So then I'm the one doing taking a jab, because I don't generally think I just jab. I don't think I do, but I will if I have thought or made the assumption that she's jabbed me first. So there's that, but like, so like coming from her, a lot of the time I hear one thing I hear is she will say, I feel like, and then she'll give me like a story. Like, I feel like you're being, mean right now. Or like, I feel like you don't think I'm capable or something. And I have a hard time relating to those statements because I'm like, well, that doesn't tell me how you're feeling. That tells me what you think I'm experiencing, but that doesn't actually tell me what, like, you're feeling.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, so let's break these down a little bit. So the first piece, let's talk about Jesus. Jesus talked all about love your neighbor as yourself. He even talked about loving your enemy. And so in moments when we're not getting along and we're seeing through the filter of this is the enemy, right?
Yeah.
So there's a key moment there to make a new commitment to seeing your partner as your ally.
Yeah.
Right? We are allies. We are friends. We are on the same team. And so anytime I'm listening through a filter of this is the enemy, of a fight or flight response, one of the number one things I can do is recommit to seeing my partner as my ally. So yeah, right now I'm hearing this through the filter of attack, defense, blame, criticism, not being good enough, who's right, who's wrong, who's the biggest victim. I'm falling into fight or flight response. I'm seeing this person as the villain who's against me, but I absolutely know this person is my ally who's on my same team, and we're both just have our own triggers that correspond with each other. And all of that is for my learning, for my growth, for my highest good. The purpose of this relationship is for my learning, for my growth, and for my highest good. The purpose of this relationship is to help me come closer to truth and to goodness through learning in this experience. So even in the worst moments, even in the most challenging moments, even when she's off course or she's not following the rules or he's, not playing by the rules or whatever's happening, this person is my ally, period. Always.
Mm-hmm.
So committing to that, like committing to seeing it that way in the first place, and then anytime you notice that you're seeing it otherwise, knowing real good and well that you've just fallen into fight or flight response and it's not true.
Yeah.
So don't feed the stories. Go, yeah, I'm just in fight or flight right now and I'm making some stuff up. Okay, so now again, back to Jesus. Why would Jesus tell us to turn the other cheek?
Why?
Yeah, does he want us to get smacked again?
No.
Okay, so why? Why does he tell us to turn the other cheek?
I never really thought about that, but when you ask that, I think he's to remain vulnerable and to not be defensive.
Yeah. Don't perpetuate it. Just let them be. Have their free agency to choose whatever they want to choose.
So hurt people, right?
Yeah.
Before that, it was always eye for eye, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right?
Yeah.
And that's the general nature of humanity in ego, right? On Facebook, you can see it all day long, whether it's Democrats versus Republicans or, all the different people that have shit to defend on Facebook.
It's like, it doesn't even have to be like politics. Like,
it doesn't even matter what it's about. Someone gets triggered, gets in fight or flight, and then goes immediately on the offensive. So there's this attack, offense, defense, and most of these people are Christians, right? But they don't even practice whatsoever love your neighbor as yourself. They don't practice whatsoever turn the other cheek. Especially, and they particularly don't practice love your enemy, right? So why love your enemy?
Love is the answer to everything. And you have that. Whatever you see, you may not be expressing it that same way, but that's you hating you.
Yeah. So when I hate my enemy, then I hate myself, and it's this never-ending cycle of hating them and hating me.
Yes.
And so, and the enemy, the reason why I'm even perceiving that person as an enemy is because they're the ones that trigger me.
Yes.
But the part that they're triggering is the very thing that I most need to learn and heal from. So why would I not appreciate my enemy? Why would I not be grateful, thank you for showing me exactly what next needs to be healed within me? Right? So our natural tendency is anyone who triggers me, blame and attack them and run away. Talk shit about them behind their back.
Yeah.
But if instead I went, oh, wow, interesting. I'm triggered. What's this trying to teach me about myself? So I become humble and open to learning. Then my enemy can deliver the gift that he was sent to give me in the first place. Right or wrong, it's an opportunity for learning and growth for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my hang up is just being it's gonna hurt. Whatever's coming up for him, it's gonna hurt. Just being well, that's up to me if I want to, that's where I get to choose love, still.
Yeah, so if you brace energetically like this, oh, it's gonna hurt.
I do.
You've already gone into the contraction.
I know.
But Aikido's more flowing. This is the dance, right? Like he steps in and you're oh, you want this space? You can have it. Right? So rather than bracing ourselves, we just breathe and return to love.
We can both feel that.
So the other thing, Aaron, you're yeah, if I feel like she jabbed, then I jab back. But I don't usually initiate the jab.
But I am initiating at that point, right?
But ultimately what we get to do is get to a place, so once she's jabbing, she's already in fight or flight. Are you going to join her on the drama triangle every time she invites you there? Or are you going to start being a choice about it?
Yeah.
Or are you going to invite her to step off the drama triangle, right? So same reason why Jesus would invite us to turn the other cheek. It's saying, yeah, you may be on the drama triangle and you may want me to join you. And typically if you smack me, then the typical egoic response would be for me to smack you back and feel completely justified in it. Right? But I'm moving beyond ego. I know how to breathe. I know how to shift my state of being, and I know how to return to love. And I know how to communicate effectively. And I know how to receive your pain, and I know how to transform it into love. So when you jab at me, not only am I not going to join you on the drama triangle, I'm going to invite you to step off the drama triangle, and I'm going to demonstrate to you that you actually cannot hurt me because I'm not my body.
Yeah.
I'm my spirit. I'm bigger than this. I'm bigger than my ego. I'm bigger than my brain and my thoughts, my judgments and my stories. I'm bigger than my body. I'm my spirit. I'm much more than all this limited thinking and smallness. So when you smack me, I'm going to show you that you're not actually hurting me. I'm going to remind you that we're both greater than this. I'm going to remind you to step back into essence so that we can return to love and create goodness, not more pain, because hurt people hurt people. But I'm going to remind both of us that don't actually hurt me unless I make it hurt me. Sure, there's a little sting on the body. That clears up and goes away. It only bruises the ego if the ego has something to defend.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm connecting with love, there's nothing to defend. And the love will heal the pain in the other person.
Mm-hmm.
You're not inviting yourself to be abused more. He's not saying become a doormat. He's saying, invite something different than the normal response.
Yeah, which is so easy to remember.
Yeah. So yesterday, we were in Salt Lake. Now we're down in St. George. Yesterday morning, Megan's like, hey, I want to leave early. I'm like, all right. And we stopped to see Levi and Sandra. Mm-hmm. Levi's like, hey, I'd like to tell you, goodbye before you go. Let's have a cup of coffee. So I sat down with him and we had a cup of coffee and I hadn't been in there that long. And when I got done, then Megan was all upset. We said we were going to leave early. I was like, oh man, I didn't know you were upset. I thought I was going to have a quick cup of coffee, say goodbye, come out. And she was very upset. Well, in the past, what I would have done would be like, what the hell's your problem? Just had a damn cup of coffee, relax. Would have been my attitude. Mm-hmm. Wasn't that long. And nowadays, now that I've matured a bit and learned some skills, I just, instead of making her out to have had the wrong experience or needing to defend anything or make her bad or wrong or give her any guilt or shame or anything, I just went immediately to acknowledging her experience. I just said, babe, it seems like you're upset. What's going on? And then she pulled the typical woman thing, kind of like, nothing, fine or something. And I was like, yeah, your body language says you're very not happy. What's up? And then I said, are you upset that you wanted to get out of here early and you don't feel like I honored that, even though you made it clear and we communicated about it? She's like, yeah. So I massaged her shoulder and told her, I love you. You're absolutely right. I didn't realize that I was taking time or holding you up or that you would be upset. I want you to know I love you and it's important to me to honor your time and all of that. So that wasn't always me, and it's still not always me, but it's more pretty my average response these days. It's pretty typical.
Did she receive it?
So it took her a bit. First she didn't. But I mean, she's gotten a lot faster too. Typically she don't go to that space these days. And when she does, she typically shifts out very rapidly. But yeah, I mean, yesterday she's dealing with a bit more between the pregnancy and a lot of pain with her Lyme disease and some other things that were going down. Then things were a little more intense for her.
Yeah.
But in that moment, the more I can realize she's just in pain. And if I attack and defend, then I'm not supporting and loving and assisting, I'm adding to the problem.
Yeah.
Right? So anytime we can just recognize it's not personal, this person's in pain, what can I do to assist? How can I bring love to this? How can I help heal the pain and answer their call for love? Now, she may want to manipulate me, and say, well, you need to do this. So I need to be aware. It's not like I need to just go hero her and, make myself wrong or whatever, but to be aware of the situation, connect with the truth, be humble enough to learn where I might have been off course or not. Maybe that I wasn't off course at all. Maybe that she had an experience, and I get to love her through that and answer her call for love while saying no to being manipulated.
So something's coming up for me. With some of the tools that we've learned, Aaron has expressed fear that, like, I'm just going to use it to kind of bail out on him, like where I get to honor myself when he's like in his shit or whatever. And I see what you're saying, like acknowledge his experience and love him through that. But I'm like feeling way hurt about that because I'm like, I would never do that. Like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
I just needed to get that out.
Awesome.
And he knows that, but.
Thank you for voicing that. So when you get honest, you know that it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You know that it has to do with a root issue within him of feeling abandoned and not good enough.
Yeah.
And that he's scared that the things that happened in the past will happen again.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. So that's Aaron's, an unloved place in Aaron that's calling to be loved. And then you are getting triggered in an unloved place, like, I haven't abandoned you. Why are you accusing me that I'm going to abandon you? Right?
I have this fear of going and honoring myself because then I have to like come home to that.
Yeah. So many of us make choices strategically, like we're playing a chess game. If I do this, he's going to do that. So I better do this so that he'll do that.
Yeah.
Right? But if we don't tune into the truth and act from a place of truth and integrity beyond what we assume someone's going to do, and we make our decisions based off of how we think the other person's going to respond,
right,
then it's like we're captain of our ship, but we're not, because instead of navigating our ship where spirit tells us to go, or where inspiration tells us to go, or where our heart tells us to go, or where we know we are meant to go, instead of being aligned with our highest truth and the highest and best good for all, we're utilizing as our compass, like we have this, it's kind of like Captain Jack Sparrow with his compass. It's like the compass isn't actual, like it doesn't say, yeah, that's north. It says, well, this is how they're going to react, so go that way. So are you really driving your ship? And can someone fully respect someone who is, one, that's manipulation. That's playing games.
Totally.
Right? That's like teenage game shit. Mm-hmm. And so it's manipulative, it's game playing, and it's not really honoring yourself or them. Mm-hmm. So if you want to have a deep, meaningful relationship where both parties are standing in their full power in alignment with integrity and truth, then you get to get clear in each moment. Like, take a moment to check in, get quiet, breathe, listen, do whatever you got to do to get inspired about what's the highest truth, and live in alignment with that regardless of how they're going to react. So like if you choose to honor yourself and then Aaron feels abandoned, then you're like, okay, sorry, I won't honor myself anymore. Then all you did was enable Aaron to continue to believe that he's unlovable and he's going to be abandoned. But if you say, Aaron, I hear you, I love you, I'm right here, and you allow him his experience and you hold a space of love for him while you also honor yourself, Aaron gets the opportunity to move through that unlovability and heal himself and be free once and for all. Otherwise, you're just keeping him chained in the same ship. So you're not empowering each other when you enable each other.
Totally.
So know the truth and stand in the truth regardless of their reaction. Their reaction is temporary. And when they're having it, that's when they need your love to help them move through it and heal from it. But if they have their reaction, if you stand in the truth, they have their reaction, and then you fall, so you stand in your truth, he goes into victim mode. You're betraying me. You're not here for me. Poor me. Victim. And then you go into either villain, like, handle your shit. It's not my problem. Or you go into victim. I was just honoring myself. Why won't you let me? Victim. Or hero. I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean to. Here, let me make it better. None of those three work.
Agree.
But familiar, right? That's
familiar.
Why
Oh, yeah.
So if instead you go, honey, I hear you, and I love you, and I'm right here. I'm honoring myself. I'm not abandoning you. And, tell me more. How can I support you in getting to the root of this? It's not my intention that you feel abandoned, but it is my intention to honor myself and to honor you as well. So let's create a win-win here.
Cool.
Can you feel the difference in that energy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I just needed like something, like a script to like go off of, like not a script, but I can't think of the word.
Okay, so the basic script would be and I'm typing this in, but it's privately just to Jen because I asked her earlier to record. So now I'm typing it to everyone. So the first, if you wanted a script, it'd be what I hear you saying is.
Mm-hmm.
The next one would be I imagine you feel. And the third one would be I imagine you want. Now, they don't have to be these exact words, and you'll even want to be careful with these words because if they feel like you're just reading from a script from what Christopher said, then they're going to have a response to that. But inside of you, if you know that really what's happening here, it's not about a script, it's about understanding how to truly listen and connect with somebody. And the way you do that is you acknowledge what they're saying, but if all you do is acknowledge what so when people are not using consciousness, communication, and listening and relationship skills, what they do is they listen to respond, right? So you say what you say, and they're listening through a filter of how they're going to respond to win the debate. If we can drop all that shit and actually just listen, see, we have two ears and one mouth. Mm-hmm. Close this, open these, and we listen. And the way we listen deeply is to not just hear them beyond our filters of defense and attack and blame and who's right and the victim, villain, hero, and all that stuff. We actually hear their heart, right? And so we first hear what they're saying, the physical words that we can hear with our physical body. Then we connect with what they're feeling. That way we're connecting empathetically. So now we know what they're saying and thinking. We also know what they're feeling, and we've acknowledged what they're feeling. Then we go to the next one, what they want. Now we're acknowledging what they want. When we can acknowledge those three levels, the person will feel heard, right? So I give you some words there, and it doesn't have to sound like that. Instead of what I hear you saying is, it could be, I hear you saying, or it sounds like, mm-hmm. Or, what I'm observing. There's many ways to say it. The next one, I imagine you feel. It doesn't need to be those words. It could be, it looks like you feel, based on what I'm seeing in your body language, it looks like you're feeling really sad and angry. What's going on? What are you noticing? Right? So I get curious. So if they share with me, then I say, what I hear you saying is that, and they may be flat out attacking you. So if they're attacking you, instead of defending and joining them in the drama, you say, what I hear you saying is I suck. I'm a loser. I'm never here. I don't care. I work too much. I'm insensitive. I'm unkind. I'm selfish. All I think about is myself. I don't spend enough quality time with you, that I don't listen well, that I don't understand you, that you feel all alone, that whatever the complaint is, right? What I hear you saying is blank. And I'm imagining that as you think about that and have that experience, that you're feeling sad. You know, maybe you feel sad that you just want to be loved, and maybe you feel angry that this is still coming back up again, and maybe you feel scared that it'll never stop, right? And then the third one would be, and I'm imagining that what you most want is to feel a meaningful connection and to feel supported and seen and appreciated. Acknowledged. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. When you can acknowledge those three levels of a person's experience, it's like they can relax and exhale because they're witnessed, they're seen, they're acknowledged, they're met.
Cool.
So if you guys need to copy and paste that or whatever you get to do, screenshot it so that you can, you know, reference that until you can practice and practice and practice it until you get really, really good at it. I'm still practicing that. I'm really good, and I'm still practicing. I still fall off the wagon sometimes. So here's the other thing I want to share, and Aaron, it was in relation to what you were saying.
Okay.
So when you say, I feel like you're a jerk, that's not a feeling. Right? When you say any version of, I feel like you don't care about me, that's unconscious speak. So conscious speak takes 100% responsibility and speaks unarguably and with emotional literacy. So emotional literacy means we communicate with accuracy about our emotions. So, and if we keep it to those 5 core feelings, it makes it super simple, right? Anger, sadness, fear, sexual, and joy. Those are the 5 core feelings. So if you'll say, I feel, you know, sad or scared or angry or excited or happy or whatever the case may be, if you will, anytime you say I feel, if you'll keep it to that, because that's what's more accurate. If I say I feel like you're a jerk, that's not accurate. That's not honest. That's not an honest statement because that's not a feeling, right? So that it's improper communication. So if I said, notice that I feel sad, and I'm making up the story that you don't care about my feelings. That's me, instead of trying to get him to change or manipulate him to see it my way and jump on board to be my hero. That's me owning what I'm creating and communicating it in a way that even my verbiage is taking responsibility for what I'm making up. So I'm making up the story. So I feel sad. Now what we tend to do when we first learn this is to use it to manipulate each other. I notice I feel sad. I feel like you don't care about me. That's like a twist on, like we gave you a hammer that was for building and you're using it to destroy. Right? Because you're trying to manipulate the other person into believing that they ruined your experience, that you're the victim to them, and that they need to do something to change to make you okay. Right? But if instead you say, okay, I hear you. And if you need to pull out that openness to learning skill, that would be perfect for this, right? Because then you can look and see where you're landing on that scale. Cool. And Nora, you guys will, it's most likely in the files section in the Facebook group, and if it's not, you'll come across it in the upcoming trainings. It's a very powerful tool. It's just a handout. It's a 1-page handout called the Openness to Learning Scale that really demonstrates how to communicate effectively and take responsibility and learn from our experiences. So, Janessa, if you can get really emotionally literate about, you know, when you say I feel, use those 5 core feelings. Now, I'm going to do a screen share real quick. Give me just a moment. Okay. Let's see. It's called Microsoft. Feels like computers on its low system resources may affect your life. and see what we can do for them. Let me see if I can get my computer to speed up here. All right, so again, let me see if I can pull up this document.
Christopher, you're breaking up quite a bit as you're doing that still.
Anyone who wants to make more money, by the way, that's breaking the time barrier is a must read. All right. Okay, right here. You guys see this handout?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so step one, when we're wanting to speak unarguably and with emotional literacy, then I start by identifying the body sensations, because the body sensations bring me to the present moment, out of the story. So instead of staying in the story and staying in fight or flight, I take myself to the present moment where I can, because Einstein said no problem can be solved from the same state in which it was created. So I got to shift my state of being first before I try to resolve the issue. Otherwise, it's not going to help. So the first step to that, so one of the shift moves that help me shift my state of being is to speak unarguably. But to speak unarguably, I've got to be present in my body and in this present moment. And in order to do that, I need to be aware of my body sensations. So if I'll stop and breathe and scan my body and say, I notice there's tension in my neck, tension in my jaw, and swirling in the stomach. Okay, so this is what I want. Step two, what are the bits doing? So that's like what's happening on a cellular level is what that means. It's like if we were to describe that with adjectives, what would that mean? It's like swirling, pulsating, pulling, tightening, anything like that. Step three is what core feelings do you notice? Anger, sadness, fear, sexual, or joy. And then step four, this issue, it says issue in the center. That's because before any of this, you pick the issue. So if the issue is you're frustrated about this, that, or the other, you pull this out, or if you haven't memorized like I do, you just breathe and say, I notice this in my body. This is what's happening physically. This is how I feel. And then I see the images, or, when I ask about this, I say, what thoughts, words, and images are coming to your mind? And then step five, from the past, this reminds me of. So instead of continuing to manipulate each other with your emotions and with your feelings and with your stories and your thoughts, you start to own it by getting to the root of it, right? So if we pull up the 4 pillars of the day, yeah, buddy. We got this.
Oh.
Subscribe. I'm just kidding. Mm-hmm.
Please bring me up. You guys hear me okay?
Not yet.
All right, I'm gonna switch
Yeah.
Wi-Fi net. All right, how about now?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Great. All right, so you guys see this 4 pillars of integrity on my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so emotional literacy. To know what you're actually feeling when you feel it. To discriminate between different feelings and sensations. To locate feelings accurately in your body. For example, fear in the belly, sadness in the chest, in the front of the throat, anger in the neck and the back. Right? So knowing where do our sensations, what does our body language tell us? If I have tension or contraction anywhere in my body, what is this telling me about what I'm feeling, beyond what I'm thinking? Because most of us are lost in our head. We get to get out of our heads, into our hearts, and into our bodies. So number 4, to know the true source of our feelings. For example, you first think you're angry because your spouse went to the movies without you. Upon reflection, you realize that the real source was that your parents often left you with a bad babysitter when they went to the movies. Okay, so let's go back to this. When you say, the value of this right here is this guides us to that. It helps us get to the root of what's actually happening. So instead of assuming that I'm angry because you went to the movies, or I'm angry because you whatever, I actually take the time to take responsibility and get to the root of it. Where did I first experience this? So I notice tension in my neck. It's pulling and tightening, tightening. I notice I feel angry. I'm seeing the thoughts, words, and images of, my dad and how I was never enough for him, and him saying, get your shit together. And number 5 from the past just reminds me of 100 times of trying so hard and never being enough for my dad, right? Or whatever the scenario is. So when we learn to communicate this way, instead of playing the game of chess back and forth, who's right, who's wrong, who's the biggest victim, then this helps us shift our energy, take responsibility, get present, and learn from what's happening. You guys have questions about this, or comments or requests? Any awarenesses?
That's perfect. That's a perfect guide.
Awesome.
Because we can't blame anyone for our feeling. Like, I'm feeling angry because of something you did. It's like, I'm feeling angry, like, period.
Yep.
And like, let's dive into that.
Yeah, so the I'm feeling angry part is the truth.
Yeah.
Everything after the word because is a story. It's a judgment. It's a projection. It's almost a passive-aggressive attack.
Mm-hmm.
Is this helping this integrate even deeper for you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just like.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because it does. Because lately, it just seems as though I've got this habit of assuming that everything I'm feeling has to do with my past, when, like, really, like, I can be angry, like, as a response to, like, okay, so help me understand this, Christopher. Like, I can be angry in response, does it always have to do with our past? I guess is my question. Like, does it always have to do with something that happened when we were a kid, or can it just be like, I'm angry right now because of I'm angry, like, or like, is it always for like, how deep does it go? Does it always go that deep, or is like sometimes we're just angry?
So we don't always have to dig to the past to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just as simple as right now I feel angry. I don't know why. I don't have a story. I don't have a reason. It's not about you, but I'm going to breathe and be with myself.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be digging, searching, trying to find. But pretty much the reason why it matters to connect it with the past, and it's key that you use it properly, because you could be like, I'm angry because this is what my dad did all the time. And that energy is more like, you did this and you're just being a jerk like my dad.
Yeah.
Right? Versus the same different energy, same scenario could be like, yeah, I'm angry. I realize it's not actually about you right now. It's about my dad and my unhealed wounds about that and my childhood. And right now I get to be with myself to move through that and learn from it and shift from it and stop seeing you as my dad. Right? So it's not valuable for the sake of being able to blame your past. It's valuable for the sake of being able to identify and shift the patterns and the beliefs and the stories and heal the shit so it stops coming up.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? For instance, when I went to the Tarahumara tribe in Mexico, indigenous tribe, not modernized whatsoever, for all of us, anyone on this call and every American I've ever known, it's a belief that if your wife leaves you, it hurts. We all just assume that that's a fact. To the Tarahumara, not a fact. They were never told that, so it's not the case. If their wife wants to leave, then they don't even have hurt feelings about it. Because it hasn't been programmed in their head that that's hurtful. They don't even have the belief that that means they're unlovable or anything's wrong with them or that they're not enough or that they failed. They're just like, oh, okay, she wants to leave. All right. It'd be kind of like two kids, like my 5-year-old. Maybe she has a crush on a boy, and he's like, I'm not your boyfriend anymore. And she's like, okay, fine. Right? It's like that's the depth of what it means to them, but to us it means end of the world.
Yeah.
Right? So if that's the case, what else have we made up to be absolute fact that is not a fact? Right? And so getting to the root of that helps us unwind, because we have so much social conditioning and patterns and programs between our parents, our siblings, our aunts, our uncles, TV, radio, cartoons. Everything has conditioned us to believe what we believe reality to be. So if a Tarahumara can have something that intense like your lover leaving you and not have it be a hurtful situation, how much could we, so we say, I feel angry. Well, why? Because of what we believe about something, right? That's why the work of Byron Katie is so important, because she's helped us identify that frickin' most of what we think is just stories. Most of what we believe is just stories, right? So she's like, well, we want to believe absolutely I'm a victim. I believed absolutely I was a victim to my ex-wife. Why? My ex-wife cheated on me with my best friend. Right? Really easy. I could go rustle up 9 out of 10 people and say, yep, you're a victim. She shouldn't have done that. She was dishonest. She was unfaithful. And that's true. I'm not negating that it's not good choices to be unfaithful and dishonest and all of that. But there's no responsibility in that. And if I don't take responsibility, then I don't have power to change the situation. And then I'm doomed to repeat the same thing in the future. But instead, I get honest and go, okay, how did I set it up that made it so she wanted to do that? What part did I play? How did I show up that helped contribute to that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So responsibility is the only place that there's power to change the result. Blame, all it does is reinforce that, the devil would use blame all day long. We'll just blame and attack and criticize each other and guilt and shame and tear down and manipulate and control and use power over and anything else. That's the way of that stuff. Love says, I'll take responsibility. I'll learn. I'll be humble, I'll be open, and I will adjust, and we'll create a different result, right? So if I get honest, how did I create my first wife cheating on me? I wasn't emotionally available and present. I didn't listen worth a shit. Anytime she did try to communicate her feelings and experience, I took it defensively, attacked her, blamed her, manipulated her, guilted, shamed her. Ultimately, she grew unable to express to me, had a lot of pent-up things that built up for years and years and years. I showed her how to not trust talking to me and be safe talking to me. She needed an outlet. I ignored it, expected her to just deal with it. Ultimately, she found that talking with it with others was helpful and ended up talking to different people, and then that ended up becoming other things. Right? And there's many, many layers to that. And it's not like that I'm saying it's my fault that she cheated. It's not about fault. It's about she's responsible and I'm responsible. She made her choices and she's responsible for those choices. But if I don't own my piece, I recreate the same scenario in my next relationship. Right? So then it's been much more, as I was able to own that and take responsibility for it, then those lessons have stuck with me into this marriage that we've been in for over 10 years now, in helping me, look and listen. Like, man, okay, I see myself taking this personal. I'm not listening. I remember the result last time. Shut your mouth and listen.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you, Christopher.
You're welcome.
I feel like you're more grounded than usual. Not that you're not ever not grounded, but I don't know, I just feel it.
Awesome. Let's see. We definitely had a powerful experience. We had a group of people out last weekend. We had like 6 or 8 people. We had 6 people for the first part, 8 for the first part, 6 for the last part. We had a really powerful experience. And today, instead of running 90 miles an hour all day long, I spent most of the day with Megan and just connecting and whatever. So maybe some of that's affecting it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Millers, what are you guys noticing in all of this? Actually, give me 1 second because I left my phone out there and I want to pull up those WUFU forms. Do you guys, give me 1 sec. All right, Toby and Nora, looks like you guys did find the WUFU form and get it filled out. Thank you. And before we dive into that, we'd just love to check in and see what are you guys noticing so far in this call with what you've heard me share and what we've been exploring. What are you guys thinking, feeling, noticing?
I'm not sure. I mean, it seems like every sentence is like, "Boo!" It's so different. I mean, I hear even like on the videos, even you talk about living in the present instead of living out of your past and things like that. And I guess for me, the whole thing even is just, I'm just more aware or more, I'm not sure I'm more aware of how I live and how I respond and the whole bit. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. It's
Nora?
very
Yeah.
new concept. So
It's new what?
it's a very new concept, but it's very good.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Nora, how about you?
I find it very freeing. I guess a lot of the results that we are getting, which I'm sure we've only tasted a tiny bit of it, but it's what I've been looking for so many years, but just didn't know how to put it into action.
Mm.
And even just like the one of the first videos, it was talking about finding your why, finding out why you're going for this or whatever. And I've always known that's what I want to do, but I didn't have anybody walking through it with me, every detail. And I just love it. Ever since I've started, I'm like, every day, if I don't work on the videos, I'm like, okay, I gotta go do something about that. I miss it. So it's pretty cool.
This brings me joy, and I can definitely see joy on Travis and Jennifer's faces. I know they worked with you guys a bit, and you guys had some fears and concerns, and you guys were able to communicate through those and overcome those through powerful communication. And I know that they love deeply, and they desire to serve deeply and help others, just as I do, to come out of the pain and the struggles of typical relationship that we've all dealt with, and to help others do the same. So Travis and Jen, do you guys want to share anything about that at all?
It makes me smile. That's why I do it, just to see people see beyond their pain, to really wake up to a whole new world that was just behind all the pain that they were looking at. So that's love, and I appreciate you guys moving past all the resistance. Like, you guys have faced into a hell of a lot of resistance and trials in your life, and like moving past this one was just another milestone for you. So I honor you guys for doing so.
Beautiful. Thank you, Travis. So I'm going to grab my whiteboard and demonstrate a little thing for you, Toby and Nora. So this can be, so this is like life / God expresses I'm going to write this differently. So God expresses, or life happens, okay? So I want you to consider each one of these 4 squares in each one of these contexts. One is life happens, and the first one is to me. Or sorry, this one's as me.
As me.
So life happens as me, or God expresses as me. So if you think of your newborn baby, when your baby was newborn, any of your babies, they're just a pure expression of God. They don't have any of the guilt, the shame, the fear, the nothing. They're just pure essence, right? They're just a precious angel from heaven. And they're literally just, they'd have no stories about their race, their color, their religion, their belief system, their worthiness, their unworthiness, their height, their color, their looks. They have 0 stories about anything. They just are, right? And that's life happening as them. So when we first come in, that's how we show up. Life's happening as us, or God is expressing as us. They're literally just an expression of God. They have no No agenda, no stories, no beliefs, no insecurities, no inadequacies, no doubts, no fears. They just are. The next phase is life happens to me. I know my writing isn't super beautiful right now.
It's okay.
So life happens to me is the next phase that happens. So we move from here down to here. Life happens to me. So this is where we start to think and act like victims. And none of us would wake up and I'd say, who wants to be a victim today? And no one's going to say yes. But anyone and everyone who gets in an argument is in a race to prove that they're the victim. So any and every time any of us have been in an argument, we have been trying to prove that we're the victim. That's the whole purpose of an argument. Right? So we have been trained and conditioned to think that life's happening to us. That, so from a religious background, you guys can probably relate to, what I was taught is when good stuff happens, it's because God sees favor in me. When bad stuff happens, it's a trial and a test or a punishment. Right? So this is that. All of that is from this place. God's expressing to me. God's life's happening to me. Or my spouse is, I was happy until my spouse got angry, and now I'm sad. That's a victim. All of this is victim. This is just essence. It's just like purest essence. It's just beautiful purity, innocence, essence, perfection, beauty. That's what all this is. But when you come down here to life's happening to me, this is when we take on that we're a victim. And the bottom line is every one of us has been conditioned to believe we're victims. It's a stage of life that we must go through. It's part of, so if you talk Christianity, they say you take on the veil, right? This could be also called the veil. It's when I don't know if you guys have watched the movie The Matrix, but The Matrix has much symbolism about how all this works. It's like life's just happening to him over and over, like this computer program, and then he wakes up and realizes that there's actually choice. When we have free agency, we've got to move out of victimhood and we got to learn new skill sets and new mindsets, new attitudes, new commitments, new disciplines and practices. And this phase is called by me. Now, a lot of people judge this phase because I'll say, you're the creator of your life. And they'll be like, no, God is the creator. That's blasphemy. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we'd replace God. I'm saying we take responsibility for our part. Right? God created it all, created all of us. And we don't get arrogant and take that away. But we do take 100% responsibility. This is all about 100% responsibility. Ending blame. Because over here, we blame the devil. If we do something bad, it was the devil's fault. If something good happens, it was God's blessing. And there's nothing to learn. It's just, this is happening. And the main story we tell ourselves from this place is, this is a trial. This too shall pass. Get through it. You'll get your reward in heaven. Well, what if heaven is something that we're responsible for creating? It's not just something bestowed upon us after we've suffered a whole bunch. Like, do we honestly believe that God wants us to come down, suffer a whole bunch, and if we endure really well, then he'll reward us? That's a pretty, I'm not so sure about that philosophy. If instead, what if we said, you know what, maybe, because if we're smart, and a lot of people have turned to science and they try to replace God with science. So there's kind of these two camps. You got science, it's like, no, it's science or nothing, and if science can't prove it, it don't exist. And that's bullshit. But then you got the God camp over here that says, screw science, it's all God, and science is stupid, and they're a bunch of atheists, and I don't trust them. But what if we used the truth in both? What if we said, you know what, God created it all, and science, if done properly, just tries to understand it and find some answers and apply what works, do more of what works and less of what doesn't work so we can get a better result.
Mhm.
Right? So if we observe in a petri dish, or if I observe, my wife has Lyme disease and her family dealt with some mold poisoning that may have contributed to that. So I can observe. Now I learn from that. I go, if I observe through science, if you create this environment with moisture and heat and light and darkness and whatever, you're going to get some mold. And if you ignore that, then you could get sick and you could die. It might be a good idea to learn from that. Right? But if I just say, nope, this was a trial from God, bullshit. You left the sprinkler on. You ignored the mold. Yet God created the conditions that allow mold to exist for whatever reasons. It has a purpose. But I'm the one that's choosing how I'm relating with those things. And if I don't take responsibility and pay attention and make adjustments, then I'm going to keep beating my head against a wall. That's that quote, like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Or as said another way, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Mhm.
Right? So when we move from this is happening to me by God, by life, by the economy, like in 2007, 2008, I lost all my money, millions of dollars, and all my possessions. And I like to tell a victim story about how the economy did it to me. But if I got honest, so before that I lost my wife, and I like to tell a victim story about how she did that to me. And then I lost all my money, which is, it's the good thing is all of these challenges are blessings. We see them as trials and we'll get our reward in heaven. But now I see them as blessings, teaching me the things that I must learn to align with that would allow me to live a life of peace and happiness and fulfillment and joy. Right? So when I lost all my money in 2007, 2008, I learned how to value myself beyond my worldly possessions, beyond my social status, beyond my bank account and my nice things. Right? When I lost my sexy wife and my relationship, I learned humility to value myself beyond, because what I was telling myself is if I had a successful business and lots of money and a sexy wife and had my shit together, that would prove that I was somebody. And if everyone could look at me and say, look at him, he's successful. Well, that was all ego. Right? So it's really good that that I was living from this place to create getting divorced and cheated on and abandoned and betrayed and losing all my money and all my material possessions. It's really good that I created those things because that helped me to get grounded in a space of humility and openness to learning. That it's kind of like in the scriptures when they talk about, came to me with a broken heart and a contrite spirit. That's when you can actually be moldable and workable. Before then, you just can be an arrogant prick. So it's important that we move from life's happening to me to life's happening by me and start taking responsibility instead of blaming God, the devil, the economy, life, other people, women, men, my past, my parents, my religion, anything. Like nothing's to blame. But in fact, I recommend removing the word blame. So just like no blame. Like we don't care who's to blame. And in a relationship, instead of like I'm 50% responsible, you're 50% responsible, instead I'm 100, you're 100. And there's no one to blame. We're both responsible. And responsibility, instead of like, you're responsible or who's responsible for this, it's like, how can I take responsibility? So if you look at the word responsibility, I'm going to have to give myself some space down here. So response, I'm gonna misspell this for the sake of making this easier. Ability. Your ability to respond.
Wow.
Right? So if I think life's happening to me and I'm acting like a victim, I have no power to change the result. I have no ability to respond in a conscious way that will change the result. All that can happen is the same thing happens over and over again. and I keep feeling victimized. And if I'm not careful, ultimately, what I did ultimately is I even blamed God. You're never there for me. I try to play by the rules. I try to do everything I'm told to do, and you leave me high and dry. Right? So I even jumped on the drama triangle with God for a while until I decided to face that and take responsibility for that too. Okay, so right here, this is the phase of life happens through me, or God expresses through me. And so when we've applied the skills and skill sets and mindsets and responsibility and attitudes, commitments, disciplines, everything here for a long period of time, then life starts to happen through us naturally, very effortlessly, with ease and grace. Right? So it's kind of like, the way I like to view this is, if I was a chubby kid in school who was nerdy, and the bullies always picked on me and beat me up, I keep thinking I suck, I'm a loser, I deserve this, there's nothing I can do about it, and it just keeps happening if I'm stuck into me. If I go, you know what, this is happening by me. I'm fat, I'm lazy, and I don't know how to defend myself. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to go to take martial arts. Or I'm going to move schools, or I'm going to do something different. So say you take martial arts. So if I walk in the dojo one time and practice this, and then I walk back out, chances are, if I run into these bullies, they're still going to kick my ass. But if I walk in this dojo and I practice every day for the next 5 years or a certain period of time, my abilities, I'm going to walk out and these guys are going to jump me, and without even thinking about it, I'm not even going to have to try, and I'll be able to defend myself. And depending on the style of martial art, I can defend myself without even hurting them. Like Aikido is this type of martial art that is, you utilize your enemy's energy to defeat them without hurting them. So there's no attack moves and no defense moves. It's just, if they attack you, you use their momentum that puts them off balance and contains them without actually even hurting them. You contain the situation. You take responsibility for the situation without attacking or defending. But if I practice martial arts long enough, at first I'm going to have to really think about it. But after I practiced a long time, I won't even have to think about it. It'll just happen. Okay, same thing with all the skills that you're learning here. In the beginning, it's like, holy cow, how do I remember to shift? How do I remember to communicate? How do I remember to listen? How do I remember to get out of my ego and get in my heart and speak from love and turn the other cheek? And how do I remember all these things? You practice and you practice and you practice and you practice until it just happens through you effortlessly. And you give yourself lots of time and patience. I've been practicing these skills for more than 10 years now, and I'm still not perfect. If you put me up against a white belt, I'll whip their ass. Put me up against a double or triple black belt, we might have a challenge. And typically your double or triple black belts are like your wife, your spouse, your parents, your siblings, people that are closest to you that know exactly how to trigger you. They know your biggest pain points without even trying. Right? Those are the really good sparring buddies that can smack you here and there, get you off balance. You guys have any questions about this whole? Now, ultimately, after we've lived in through me long enough, we actually return to as me. And this is a state of enlightenment. Our babies are actually enlightened, and our old people end up going back to enlightenment as well. Right? So when we practice this long enough, the by me long enough, we move into through me, and when we've been in through me long enough, we actually return to as me. You can bypass these 3 steps, but there's only one way to do it. You can go from as me to me and right back to as me. And the only way to do that is through extreme suffering. So you can reach enlightenment and bypass all of this through extreme suffering.
So
Or what's that?
I'm just curious, what do you mean by suffering?
So I don't recommend the path at all. I don't recommend anyone choose consciously to suffer. But if you see people who were completely just like raped, mutilated, abused horribly, locked up, just the most horrific things that you can imagine, when you see those people and they go through all of this, they end up connecting so deeply with Source as their coping mechanism that they actually go directly back to Source without having to go through the typical day-to-day. Like, life is designed to give us, the veil is created here. We start to take the veil off here. We start to live mostly without veil here, and then we return to essence with no veil here. So you can go straight back to that just through incredible, like those incredible, horrible things. Or we can take the typical path, which is through just being in relationship, being in business, doing things that, being conscious and taking the path of life and utilizing everything that happens in life to learn from.
Right.
Any other questions or comments or requests about this?
I don't think so.
Toby?
I'm good.
Awesome. Aaron or Janessa?
Sorry, we're great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so Toby and Nora, let's quick go through your WUFU form, then we'll wrap this call up. All right, so on this loving, fulfilling, passionate, meaningful, and intimate connections, you had 0 to 4, less than 1 a day. So what I want to have you guys do is, because this isn't about, that one's not about sex, that one's about caring connections. So it could be appreciations, love notes, text messages, non-sexual touch. So I want you to start, because what you focus on expands, right? And so what I want you to start focusing on is what's right in your relationship, what's right with each other. What we tend to do is somehow, for some reason, we think that if I guilt and shame and manipulate you, that it'll make you want to come closer to me, that it'll bring us closer together, we'll have a better relationship, and for some reason it never works. So if instead you'll start focusing on really appreciating each other and taking time and making those investments, like think of it like a bank account. If in a bank account, the more deposits you make, if you make more deposits than withdrawals, then that account thrives, right? Same thing with our garden. If we put more into it than we take from it, it thrives. The soil, if you put more into it than you take from it, it thrives and continues to thrive sustainably. Our relationships, if we take more from our spouse than we give to them. And so for me, when I grew up growing up fundamentalist Mormon, basically I had my wife sign an agreement and then guilted and shamed her. And like, if you divorce me, you're going to hell. If you don't submit and play along, then you suck. If you do this, this, and this, then we've got this list of what's wrong with you. A lot of that was a lot of the problem. So if instead we start going, with my wife currently, the agreement is, hey, I take responsibility for making more deposits than withdrawals rather than trying to get you to stay out of guilt and shame and fear that you'll go to hell if you don't. Right? Like, I'll make it awesome. I'll make it so you want to be here, and you do the same. So her commitment to me is, I'll make it so you want to be here. And my commitment to her is, I'll make it so you want to be here. So instead of like, you better stay or else, it's, I take responsibility for making an environment and a relationship that you want to be in. Right? It's just a shift in our attitude and focus. And part of that is rather than blaming and complaining, because when we're complaining and blaming, what we focus on expands. If we're seeing what's wrong with our partner in the relationship, then that's going to get bigger. What's wrong with our partner in the relationship is going to get blatantly obvious in our face. And it's going to get worse. But if instead we focus on what's right with each other and start appreciating and acknowledging each other. Like, I appreciate how you're faithful. I appreciate that you're honest. I appreciate how every time I come home, you're here. Appreciate how you take care of the kids. I appreciate how you provide for us. I appreciate how honest you are and how much you love God and choose to be the best version of yourself. I appreciate how we share the same values in our parenting and in our belief systems. I appreciate, like there's so many things. I appreciate your smile. I appreciate the sense of how big you love and how I know that about you. It could be funner things, like I appreciate this body part, right? If you like body parts. I appreciate your eyes, appreciate your ears, I appreciate your smile and that dimple or whatever, right? So the more you can create these healthy, happy interactions, these are deposits. So if all of you're like, well, why didn't you have dinner ready? Or how come you come home grouchy? Or those are withdrawals that happen from the account. We want to make sure that every day we're making more deposits than withdrawals. So proactively wake up and say good morning and give a kiss before you go and send a text message and write a love note and get some flowers and think of what can you do for each other that would make each other's life better, but not in a way that sacrifices yourself, in a way that edifies both of you, so that it's a true win-win deposit.
Okay. I was looking at that a little more like maybe, for sure, like 10 or 15 minutes talk, connecting and all that. Okay.
So thanks for clarifying that. I think we get to rewrite that question because I don't think it's super clear to most people. And yeah, I'm looking for just those brief moments. Just how many awesome, loving deposits can you make every day? So if you guys can view it that way from now on, that would be helpful. And when our plate's pretty full right now, but I'll make a note and we'll get in and get that question rewritten. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so it looks like you've had some intimacy. That's good. Ultimately, we believe that intimacy is a gauge for the relationship, not something that necessarily makes it better or worse. It's more like telling you where it's at. Okay, so what's the biggest win? Growing in the realization that we can control our own lives. Beautiful. What's the number one challenge you're facing in your relationship right now? Staying focused and making time for the exercise. Toby, being scared of opening up to myself and to Toby, although it's very freeing, letting go of feeling responsible for Toby's choices. So encourage you guys to, keep speaking to each other deeply about those things. I know how scary it can be. I've been unwinding fears for years and years and years and years, so many fears about what's right, what's wrong, what's going to lead me to the darkness or to this evil place or to worse things or whatever. So totally get it, and just encourage you guys, communicate openly about those things, breathe, get to the bottom of them, just keep exploring them and looking at them from different angles. And for me, ultimately, what I've come to is if it comes from love, I believe it comes from God. If it comes from fear, I believe it comes from somewhere else. Right? So even when he's in the 10 Commandments, when it says, thou shalt not whatever, steal. The way we take that is if you steal, both God and Santa Claus are keeping a list, and you're gonna be punished. And instead, the way I see it now is more like, when I steal, I'm opening up energetically in a world and in a reality where I'm going to fear that other people will steal from me. And I'm going to have the tendency to live in a scarcity mentality, and it's going to have the tendency to keep me broke and stuck and feeling like I can't trust anybody and like people suck. And ultimately, I'm going to attract others to steal from me so that I can know how it feels. And so I'm going to create this endless loop of pain in my human life because I stole. And it's almost, I I actually basically believe that the punishment is in and up in the sin itself. Like the punishment is inherent and starts immediately and continues until the repentance happens. Right? It's not. It's not. I don't give a shit about a list that anyone's keeping. The lists don't matter. What matters is either I'm aligned or I'm not aligned. Because when I'm not aligned, it hurts and it sucks and life's hard and I have all these negative, low-frequency experiences, and I could stay stuck in that for a long time. I don't think God's waiting to punish me. I think it's inherent in and of itself that when you're out of alignment, it sucks, and it sucks clear until you're in alignment, no matter how long that is, even if it's after this life. So it's less about a list that someone's policing me on. It's more on just the frequency I'm vibrating on and what that means, the result of that.
Right. And I think that's what that puts into words more what I was referring to there as in, learning to control our life. I guess the more accurate term would be learning to control our reaction to life.
There you go.
But for so long, we've just lived on what I call a low-level life. I mean, we're not. How would you say? We're not necessarily in the lower class. But what I'm saying is the quality of our life is still. We just do life, and at the end of the day, what really happened today? We go to bed.
Yeah.
And so just learning that there's so much more to life, and I haven't gotten through the first miles. I think I wrote more in the last week than I did in the last year. But it's like Nora said, it's so freeing because it just brings a new awareness to who you are and what you can control, and you don't have to depend on everybody around you to control your life. You're not a baby anymore.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
And life is by no means perfect at this point.
Yeah.
But I would say we both have more of a hope or a knowing that we're going somewhere.
Wonderful.
But on the other hand, it's kind of scary because we've never been there.
Yeah. So much new territory to explore. And the main compass I was wanting to give you all in all of that was the choice between love and fear. So when you're sorting through truth, for me, it was really hard for the first couple of years. Like, how do I know what's right and what's wrong and what's truth? And I'm questioning what I was raised to believe. And I don't want to choose the wrong things that will lead me down the wrong path and be in this negative, ugly, gross place and be stuck there forever. My number one value was to be with my Father in heaven. The worst thing I feared was making the wrong choices and being condemned to hell. Right? So the compass that I found that finally brought me peace in all of that was what I'm saying. If it comes from love, I believe it's from God. If it comes from fear, I believe it's from somewhere else. So so even when I read the scriptures, it says, thou shalt not steal. Instead of the fear of if you steal, you're a piece of shit who should hate yourself and go punish yourself and have a shitty life and be expected to be punished forever. Instead, it'd be like, yeah, dude, probably not a good idea to steal because it's going to suck for you and everybody. Let's create a more awesome place, right? So love, that same statement, looked through the eyes of fear, is a very scary thing. That same statement, looked through the eyes of love, is a very liberating thing. Right? So you can take any scripture and any belief you have and run it through the filter of the love-fear filter. And you say, what's the essence? What's the love in this message? What's the guidance and the wisdom in this message? And how has it been taught and twisted culturally by humans to come from a place of fear to manipulate? Why? Because humans are motivated by two primary motivations. One is fear, one is pain, and one is pleasure. Right? So if you look at the sales pitch that has been pitched to us by humans in charge has been, if you do this, you'll have the worst pain for the longest amount of time. And if you do this, you'll have the greatest joy for the longest amount of time. Heaven and hell. If I could tell you, if I can convince you of that, I can get you to do any damn thing I want you to do. Because not only do you have the risk of the current moment sucking, you have the risk of eternity sucking or being awesome. So all of us are motivated by two primary things. Like you choosing into this program, there was two things. The pleasure of having an awesome relationship and a life of liberation. The pain of staying in a shitty relationship and the fear that it might not work and that you get divorced and have a divided family or be unhappy the rest of your life and not be empowered. That was your prison and your paradise, your pain and your pleasure. Right? So that motivates and influences every one of our choices. So as a navigation point and a compass that you can use moving forward, because it can be very challenging. You're like walking in this big scary world. The religion I came from basically believed there was like a couple thousand of us that lived in one little valley. And those couple thousand that lived in that particular valley were the one and only true church and the only chosen people of God, and everyone else was going to hell, including you guys. Every Amish person, fucked. Every ex-Amish person, going to hell. Anyone and everybody who wasn't in my community of 2,000 people, you were not God's people. We were the only ones.
No, we were.
We thought.
Yes. So from that place, when you leave that place and you realize something's off here, like we're talking about Jesus, we're talking about love your neighbor, we're talking about all this stuff, but something don't feel right. And so we leave. But then we're still scared because we have all this programming about the devil and the adversary and all this shit that's going to lead us astray and this evil world out there. So you come out and there's a few thousand of you that are the chosen ones, and now you realize you maybe are not the chosen one, and you're in this world of 7 billion people, and there's all this atrocities going on, and most of the people in the world are the bad people, and it's just scary. You're trying to navigate this minefield. So I just really want you to have this compass to help navigate this minefield, and it's this compass of love versus fear. And so at first I ended up saying, screw religion, screw scriptures, screw all of it. Like, I don't want anything to do with any of it. But then later I realized that I had pain that needed to be healed and unloved places in me from the hurt from those things, and that I wasn't being honest about the good from those things. And so I spent a lot of time healing with those things and coming to terms with it and ultimately embracing the good in religion and in all of it. But the thing that finally brought me peace was knowing that I could stay on the course. We had this thing called hold to the rod, the iron rod, right? It's like the straight and narrow path, right? So the thing that finally gave me the ability to know I'm going to be okay and I'm going to stay the course. One was just experience over and over again, because they told me if I left, I would be a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I would fall apart and I'd get worse and worse and worse, and it just didn't happen. So then everything they ever said would happen that didn't happen just started to make me question all of that. Then on top of that, when I discovered if it comes from love, like there's nothing from the devil that could come from love. There's nothing bad that could come from love. So when it comes from true love, it's always good. When it comes from manipulation and guilt and shame and fear and doubt and insecurity and control and all that stuff, then it's coming from somewhere else. God allows agency and God loves unconditionally. So when I motivate myself through love instead of guilt and fear and shame, And when I choose good because I love myself and love others and love God and love goodness, it's a completely different motivation. It's like a true saint. You know, if they went to heaven, they're like, why did you do all these nice things? So I wouldn't go to hell. Or why'd you do all these nice things? Because I love people and I love to serve. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not actually a saint if you're doing shit just because you're scared you'll go to hell if you won't.
Yeah.
That's a different energy. Right? So if it comes from love, and test that. I don't want you to even trust me on this or on anything. I just want you to test what I say and share. And if it works for you the way it's worked for me, do more of it. And if it doesn't work, just cast it out, because I'm a human. I'm not claiming to know everything. I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I'm not claiming to have any special authority. I'm not claiming to be anyone's authority. I'm a man. It talks all over in the scriptures about not trusting in the arm of flesh. Don't trust me. Trust your relationship with God. Just utilize me to cut time out of your journey by, if we're hiking the same mountain and I've hiked that thing for 10 years and I've taken all the pitfalls and ran into all the snakes and twisted my ankles and taken all the supposed shortcuts that became long cuts, and I can say, hey, dude, don't go that way. It sucks. Then cool, you can shorten your path and make it a lot more easy and graceful. Other than that, I'm not your authority. You are. That's between you and God. But so I don't want you to trust anything I say, but I do invite you to test it. And if it works, do more of it. And if it don't work, don't do more of it. And please don't even hate me when I'm off, because I'm off sometimes. I'm still on my journey. Like 10 years from now, I'll look at some of the things that I'm perceiving right now from my current viewpoint and say, oh, that was cute. Now I know something better, right? So I'll, look at me not as anyone better or special or anything, just someone who's been up the mountain for a bit and who cares and who's willing to take the time to help you save some time and energy to catch up so we can go on to bigger and better things together.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Do you guys have any other questions or requests?
So can I share something real quick? Maybe help Aaron and Toby with the opening up aspect.
Please.
So Christopher mentioned what you focus on expands, right? So let me share an experience. Jennifer recently reached out to my brother to clear up some energy with him, because he's perceived some things about my path of recovery with porn addiction and other things. And his perception of looking at me, he sees me through the way he judges himself, right? So his perception of how I looked at porn or the reasons why I went there, it was all a perception of how he viewed it. He was in a relationship where he did not like his wife at all. He did not want to be with her at all. And so his perception of going to porn was, people go to porn because that's how they satisfy themselves, because that's really what they want. So I'm sharing this to give you an illustration of what you focus on expands, right? What you focus on, you create more of. For me, it couldn't be further from the truth of why I went there. It was a deep, painful journey for me, but it had nothing to do with the fact that my wife was unattractive or that there was anything going on with her that wasn't desirable to me, other than she wasn't available or she couldn't connect to me, right? She adopted the perception that she's been pregnant, her belly swelled up, she has stretch marks, she has, she's not her perfect form pre-pregnancy, right? So she adopted the perception that I went to porn because of how her body looked. And clear back then, I realized that if I focused on the stretch marks, or I focused on her belly that was out of shape or misshapen, or if I focused on anything and I just looked at the negativity of it, what you focus on expands. So I could have went the road of my brother by focusing on all the negative and expanding that into, yeah, she's ugly. I could never be with this girl anymore. Look at that. She's so much prettier. I realized it clear back then that that was a very devastating drug that if I partook, I would ruin myself. So, so my perception changed even from the very beginning. Like, no, I'm going to see the beauty in this because I wanted connection. I wanted the intimacy. I wanted the relationship with her. So I chose to focus on the beautiful. I chose to see all of the things that she judged and hated about herself. I chose to see it as beautiful. I chose to see the gift in it. How is it beautiful? How is it pretty? And to me, her flaws became more beautiful than the things that supposedly don't have flaws. Completely different story with my brother. He's been divorced. He divorced that woman. He did remarry another one, and with a lot of guidance, we helped him get a one that would actually be decent for him. But he's still in the space of sabotaging it because he's focusing on everything that's wrong with the world, everything that's wrong with everyone else, because that's all he's looking at in himself. So this concept of focusing, what you focus on expands, can either take you to levels you've never been before, or it can take you to depths that you don't want to go, right? What you focus on expands. What you focus on, you create more of. For me, I chose to see the beauty, and Jennifer has just got more beautiful, more beautiful, more beautiful. The things that supposedly can't be done after pregnancy, she's done. And in my estimation and my views, it's all been done because of the space of love that I was in. I chose to see the beauty, not the ugly or perceived ugly, right? And so anyway, I'm sharing that for both parties, to what you focus on. Pay attention what you're focusing on in your relationship. If you're focusing on what's wrong with her, with him, you're expanding that. What you're doing is creating more of it. So really pay attention to what you're thinking. Pay attention to how you're approaching it. And also for the women, especially, like Janessa and Nora, like, help him see the beautiful. Also be compassionate and for him to open up. Like for me, it was extremely scary because I did not want to lose her. Extremely scary. I valued her beyond anything, and for me, opening up meant she was going to walk away. She was going to leave me. That was my biggest fear. So if you can reconcile that, because I know, Aaron, both you and Toby, like, you want your wife. So I'm sharing all of this to give you confidence to open up, to express yourselves, to, yeah, you're going to go to a new place and it's scary. But the confidence, I'm sharing my relationship as a confidence booster, that if both of you approach it in a space of love and compassion, and what you focus on expands. When you choose to see the good more than the bad, you're going to expand. You're going to create the relationship you're looking for. You're going to create the bond that you're looking for.
I say it does go both ways too. Like Travis, he got to a space long before I did of appreciating his addiction and what it taught him. It took me a lot longer to get to a space of appreciating that and what it taught me. But to be able to come from that space of actually appreciating what it is that shows up in your relationship, and actually coming from a space of wanting to learn what it is that it's there to teach you. I know earlier, as Christopher was talking, and the thought came into my mind about appreciating your experiences and learning from them. I know a lot of times when I get into this space of of getting into my deep emotion and feeling like my deepest pains, and then a lot of times it would end up being an attack on Travis, and he would sit there and he would listen, and he would just acknowledge, and he'd be like, yep, I hear you, yep, I hear you. And then he would say, and what do you think this is here to teach you? And I do have to say, sometimes that really pissed me off. But I learned to appreciate it, because every time I understood that, yeah, this is here to teach me something. So what is it? What is it that I'm still not seeing that I get to sit with and have opened up to me, so that I can learn to appreciate this as well.
So I have a question about Travis, what you said about helping him see the beauty. What did you mean by that?
It's easy to look at the negative, easy to see everything that's wrong. That's what we're trained and conditioned to see. Like, that's how we perceive that God judges us. We're rewarded for everything we do right, and we're ostracized for everything we do wrong. And like Christopher showed you that chart, it's stepping into a new realm where you're appreciating everything. The ugly, the beautiful, they're all gifts. Instead of differentiating, he's lovable if he acts this way, or if he's this way. If he acts this way, I'm sorry, you're out. Go to hell. That's the typical approach. We're in a reward relationship. If you do this, then I give you this. If you act this way, then I withdraw this way. So it's shifting where you've been in the victim square to moving into the other square, where what can I learn? How can I appreciate this?
Right, that makes sense.
And we're teammates. You're partners. You're in it together. We're not here to destroy each other. We're here to build each other. And coming from a space of appreciation, and what you're focusing on can drastically speed up your process.
Right. I'm just discovering that I've not been very good at doing that, and it's kind of awkward. Actually, when I do appreciate something, speaking it out, and that's probably pretty bad.
It's like candy to me.
Exactly.
Because I'm a words of affirmation guy.
Yep. I'm there with you. Jennifer took a long time to, like, she appreciated me, but she would never voice it.
Right.
She would try and voice it through actions or doings, but she couldn't appreciate me. But it's exactly that, Nora. It's candy. It's deposits into your bank account, like Christopher said. Like, those are the gold. That's the jewels of building your relationship. So moving past your resistance, or I sound stupid, or this is wrong, or whatever the story is that shows up as you appreciate him, like, that's your gift. So stretch yourself, start appreciating way beyond what you're comfortable, and listen to the stories that show up in your mind, and those are your gifts to move beyond where you're at.
Travis and Jen, I sure appreciate you guys always bringing your wisdom and beauty all the time. Thank you for who you are and what you bring. Okay, guys, any last questions or requests? Aaron and Janessa, I imagine you guys are ready to go be with each other.
I really want to share this experience, and I was like, oh, it's not the right timing, or maybe we shouldn't. But after Travis and Jennifer were talking, it's like I have to. So, like, no secret, like, a big issue in our relationship has been like the porn addiction and all the pain it's triggered for me and everything. And so 2 things came up for me last week. I was like, I really just want to like go up to the woods, like let's go find something to just like go ape shit on, like bring your gun, like we're doing this. So we did, and we were just like screaming and like totally getting into it, and it was like so good. And then that night we decided, well, Aaron his heart was telling him that he needed to do the activity where I watched, and all sorts of shit came up for that for both of us. And it was really powerful, and it was really good, and it is crazy. But then for me, like what kept coming up for me even days before that, I was like, I kind of want to watch porn with you. Like, not to be like, let's get into it or whatever, but be like, okay, I'm so sick of it. Like, the stories in my head, like, let's go put it on and like see what comes up and just like be with that and be in it. It was so epic. Like, I could clearly see, and he had the same experience, like the disconnect. Like, for some reason in my head, I had this story that like he's gross or he doesn't love me or like just so much shit. And like having it on, all I could see was like his heart and how much it hurt him and how freaking perfect like it has totally been for him and totally been for me. And like just like a perfect reflection of like everything that I went through and the choices that I made, and just like just trying to survive. And I just felt like so connected to that. And it was pretty cool. So I give a lot of credit. I think, you know, being challenged to do some of those processes opened up my heart to being like, oh, actually I have one for you. And like, seriously, it has changed like everything. Like I'm like so good.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And that was the first, it like gave so much perspective. When she brought that up, I was like, what do you mean you want to do that together? Like what? What does that even look like?
It's a trap, run.
Yeah. So like she kept bringing it up, and then finally like she brought it up when we were just like sitting in the living room, and it was like, okay, I'm open to it. And then she was like, no, I mean like right now. Okay, still open to it. And never before in my life have I had such a clear perspective on my wife in relationship to me, our relationship to pornography in relationship to us, the non-relationship that the people in pornography have. It was just like this. I could see so clearly because literally we were like holding hands and like holding each other. We were doing
like the
and,
movement.
And it was like, it basically is just kind of going on in the background. And it was like, holy crap. Like I see who my wife is and I see what pornography is like so clearly. And never before had I been able to just so clearly like see those things for what they really are. And it was really powerful. I mean, it was really powerful. I think the thing I gained most from it was perspective. And I like really appreciate Janessa for following her heart on that. And yeah, just like leaning into that. It was really powerful.
Yep.
Never would have thought that would ever happen with us, and it was perfect.
So it was bringing up like, I want to hate you, and like I'm so mad at you, and it's like, am I really gonna keep doing that, or do I choose to love him? And it's like, you know, you like hear it, and I can see it because I was like trying to avoid it, and I'm like, no, like look at it, like what is it bringing up for you? And I was just like, okay, like is that what I'm gonna like keep being and doing? And it was like, no, like I'm just gonna love him. Like I'm gonna love him. I'm gonna love this. Like it was awesome. Healing.
That is really awesome. Really awesome. And I feel you on so many levels. I know there was one point in my healing journey where I wanted to believe what Travis was telling me about why he was going there. I wanted to believe him about what he watched and how extremely careful he was about what he actually watched.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, there's nothing good about porn. There's nothing that he could have watched that could have been good, right? Or
Yeah.
that could represent what he was telling me he was trying to find and how careful he was about what he watched. And so I actually spent 2 nights where I went and I actually searched through this one porn site that I knew he watched stuff on. And I actually went through and I actually searched and searched and searched. I went through pages and pages and pages and pages, like probably like 100 pages of looking at what was there. And then actually like, oh, like there was one video I found that I actually showed to my son because it actually showed surprisingly enough, it actually showed a loving relationship between a man and a woman. It actually never even showed them having sex, but it showed them being playful together, and it showed him being very gentle with her. And like, I was like, wow, seriously? Like, this kind of stuff is on there too? I was shocked. But it did bring a level of healing to myself for realizing that, you know what, Travis told me he would scroll through pages and pages and pages of stuff just to try and find something he was actually okay with watching, because most of this stuff he was not. Because of how deeply he respected women, and he would not watch anything that did not respect a woman. And there was a part of me that wanted to believe him but was having a hard time believing him. And so for me, being able to go and do that brought a huge level of healing for me as well. So I just, yeah, I'm like so happy that you guys did that.
And Travis, like, I like connect to you and like see your heart and like what you've been through, and I totally like have so much compassion and understanding and like love for you for like living that, like, big. I know.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Don't keep that stuff in. That stuff you need to broadcast.
I know. I know. For sure.
Brings me great joy to see you healing from that stuff and coming full circle and breaking the patterns. Choosing love, choosing connection, choosing integrity, choosing goodness. And oftentimes we think that by running and hiding from it, that's the path. And most of the time it's by actually looking at it honestly that it liberates us. But for me, when it was alcohol, and I only told myself the bad stuff about alcohol, then I never could liberate myself. When I actually stopped and said, what are the benefits? Why am I doing this? There's a payoff. Up until then, I couldn't stop. I tried willpower over and over and couldn't stop. And when I stopped and said, you know what, when I drink, it allows me to be free, relaxed, playful, connective, honest. Allows me to sing and dance and express myself. Then I said, cool, all I got to do is figure out how to do those things without alcohol, and then I don't need it anymore. And so the willpower was able to, instead of depending on willpower to win this unwinnable battle, what I discovered was that self-love and self-confidence would give me the ability to sing and dance and express and relax and play. And I wouldn't need alcohol. That alcohol was a band-aid to help me do what I wasn't able to do without it. And that rather than trying to guilt myself through it, it was by acknowledging the payoff and getting honest and finding a better way that I was able to completely alleviate alcohol from my life. With ease and grace. A similar experience with my sister. So my sister was molested heavily and had a lot of trauma around it. She's my oldest sister. And she's probably 6 or 8 or 10 years older than me. And there was a time when we were talking, like, how are we going to heal? What do we need to do? Like, we were in so much pain, especially around sexuality. Based on all the shit that our parents had done and all the things that we had been through as children. And we were inspired to go to a strip club. Me and my oldest sister went to a strip club together and just watched for an hour or two these women. And we cried and we talked and we discussed and had all these fears and pains and stuff surface, and we moved through it. And ultimately what we really discovered was the women in there were really just hurt women who wanted to feel control and power. And the men in there were just sad, scared little boys who wanted to feel connected and nurtured. And they were in there. What basically she was like, they're drinking their beers, and she's like, that's just their baba. And they're looking at boobs, and she's like, that's just like, my 6-year-old girl loves her mom's boobs. It's a form, it's hardwired in us as that's what nourished us. That's what fed us. There's an association with love and nurturing and comfort and all kinds of good stuff that's hardwired in there. So all these were sad, scared, disconnected boys who were wanting babas and nurners. Right? They're drinking their babas and nurners, trying to pacify themselves because they feel so empty and alone and whatever. And so when we can remove the judgment on those people and on the scenario, we can bring love, because hurt people hurt people. The women in there are hurting people. The men in there are hurting themselves and their lives. And ultimately we wasn't able to heal any of them, but we were able to heal a lot of our pain and come to an understanding with, because, in the scriptures it talks about honor thy father and thy mother. Well, I had a hard time honoring my father prior to that. All he was a beast to me, right? And that was one of the things that helped me to actually see he's just a sad, scared little boy that had an empty void that he was trying to fill. What we need to do is fill the void with love rather than continue to reinforce the guilt and the shame and the emptiness and making it even worse. Doesn't mean we allow them to do what doesn't work. We got to hold that impeccable integrity. But me and my sister, one time going into a place like that, just from a scientific viewpoint, not from a get drunk and join the party viewpoint, from a let's observe and see what comes up and see what we can heal through this, was one of the most healing moments in my life.
Super cool.
All right, guys, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate all of you being so open and honest and vulnerable and exploring these scary places. One of the biggest places of pent-up energy is around sexuality. Anger is a close second, probably. But in humanity, we carry so much guilt and shame and ugliness that we stuff down and hide that becomes really ugly expressions of self. And so facing into these things and talking about them in a safe and healthy environment and moving through them to a space of healthiness and goodness can be scary, but it's an important work that we need to do. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for being willing and open and honest and getting those things done. Aaron and Vanessa, make sure you finish doing the week 8 content, completing the week 7 exercises, make a commitment to yourself to complete the week 8 exercises over the coming weeks, maybe over the next month or so, and get that call scheduled with me right away.
Okay.
Nora and Toby, definitely be sure to stay the course. So we meet here once a week. And the general idea is that you complete module 1 before you get to week 2. Complete module 2 before you get to week 3. So that we stay on course, that we're addressing what needs to be addressed as we go, so that we have you through not just the content, but the experiences within the 8 weeks, and that you have the support to move through it as you go. Otherwise, if you procrastinate or delay, you get through the 8 weeks, the program's up, and you haven't had the ability to be supported with all of the processes and steps. So it's an 8-week course, and each line builds upon the next in a very specific flow and structure. And these calls are critical to that, because you're not just watching a computer screen, you're actually interacting and getting support and getting your questions answered. So please make a commitment within yourself that you will do what it takes to get the content and the exercises done, remembering that information alone will not liberate you. You must have experiential learning and transformation. So that's why there's always a homework assignment. We're not trying to consume more of your time. We're specifically sending you through processes and exercises that will help you get the breakthroughs and liberation that you're here for. And information alone isn't enough. It's a good start, but it's not enough. So can you guys make sure that you both consume the content each week and complete the exercises prior to the following week's call?
Yes,
Wonderful.
I will try to do better.
Awesome. Okay, blessings, guys. Matt, welcome to the call. We're just wrapping up. Love and appreciate you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Blessings to you and Michelle. Thank you, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the day, amazing upcoming weekend and week. Consume that content, do those exercises, take that action. Action is where the rubber hits the road. So blessings. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.